do you still remember when our biggest problem was the 8th season of Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
It was the last time. That was the last time we saw each other here, which is a bit weird. So many things have happened since. So
Actually, I'm still more pissed at the 8th season of Game of Thrones than what's going on right now.
well, yeah, because you are one of the very few people that I know, beside myself, I have to say, who are actually happy about what happened. Well, not happy, but who's actually satisfied with what they were able to do in 2020, right?
Yeah,
because
it's been a good year.
It's I wouldn't dare saying that. Cheers. Thanks for coming back.
Hey, Satan.
Welcome, welcome to the Devil's Workshop again. So,
thank you, my friend. Thank you for inviting me again. It's a pleasure to be here, back in your recording room.
It's a nice sentiment to have you here, and we have a special occasion to celebrate. So before everything else, when did you decide that you want to become an emperor? Because you have built an empire.
Thank you.
I mean,
since I was a little kid, every time I close my eyes, I would see thousands upon thousands of warriors raising their blades in the air and chanting my name. And they would just shout and cheer me. And probably this is where I started to get, maybe, why not?
What a nice choice from your end that you didn't want to be a rock star, because it's exactly the same thing that I wanted on stage. And sometimes it happened, but let's just say that I'm not the jealous type, but I'm envious to the position you have built yourself. It's quite impressive, to be honest.
Well, you are an exceptional musician, and you have been cheered by thousands of people on more than one occasion on stage. So you know how it goes.
Well, thanks. But still, when I became a musician and I started composing music and writing, I quickly realized that one of the reasons why I was into music is because I got a lot of influence from video games. So that was the main reason I wanted to get into video game composition. Because
you have a relationship that is quite strong between your need to write music and video games. What age were you when you decided that's what you wanted to do, that's a career you want to explore?
Writing music, okay. Well, music always interested me. I think as many in my generation, the first big influence I had was Doom. Probably the MIDI tracks written by Bobby Prince, and I definitely remember that in my first years of elementary school, we had this opportunity with one of my best friends then to play Doom just after it came out. I was like 8 years old, something like that, maybe 9, and I wouldn't say that I thought about writing music for video games, but I thought that was cool. That was the best thing I have ever seen. And then in high school we started a band, and I wanted to be a bassist just so I could join my friends, and then it started from there. I think I realized that I would like to get into video game composition when I came to France, because I wanted to be a rock star, but it's a bit surrealistic, no? Which
year did you come to France?
So it was actually 10 years ago. Last August was the 10th anniversary of me coming here. So
and you left which city?
I went back to Budapest. So I left my hometown. I left my hometown at the age of 24
to come to the greatest city in the world. Period.
Yes, but I landed in Strasbourg. So I love to live here, by the way. It's, a bit less now. I don't know how you are with this. The city has become quite big. These last 10 years, it changed a lot.
Yeah, every year that I spend here, I find myself thinking, I should move to a smaller village around the city.
Yeah, around the city, just like 20 minutes outside.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's what I'm dreaming about right now. So, but you have moved.
I have moved actually. I did it. I bought a house with a garden on the skirts of the forest near town. So my home is quite outside the city. I'm very happy about it.
To this day, one of the best memories I have about you is when we went to your place, which was still here in the city. Because it was like, because it was like.
Oh right, when I lived on the last floor.
Yeah.
Under the roof.
Yeah. So it was also mansarde, just like this one, and all the walls that I can remember had shelves on them, and everywhere there was a piece of, I don't know, pop culture or books or collectibles and then I realized, he's eccentric. So yeah. Let's talk about something first, because I'm not exactly sure who is going to watch this, but since we are speaking English, which is neither yours nor mine first language, how about we introduce you to the people?
Sure, it would be my pleasure.
Well, okay, so how we came to know each other is through your photography. So you have a lot of creative intentions and creativity inside of you, and this is how we got to know each other, through your work ethic. But
it was about I would say 8 years ago,
something like that. I did the video for the Minotaur in 2013. So yeah, about right.
Oh yeah. And we were introduced because you were looking for someone to create your portfolio for the album.
Yes.
And work as a cameraman on the
music video recording.
On the music video,
yes. Yeah.
And for most people who don't know me, I have been a professional photographer for more than 15 to 20 years, I would say. I was completely self-taught. Back then, when I started, my mother gave me her old Canon, which was still a film camera. Mm-hmm. And I would save money and work on weekends to be able to buy film and go to concerts and take my friends or bands I admired the pictures on stage. And that was something that moved me, trying to immortalize a moment in time. Mm-hmm. That represented actually sounds. That's something that was quite moving. And quite quickly, I became a professional working for agencies in Paris. Mm-hmm. They would send me around the Europe to all the festivals and concerts to take the pictures for mostly metal magazines.
I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember I stopped doing that the year where I saw nothing to do with nothing bad about the band, I'm gonna say, but it was just too much. I took I think 12 times Epica live in the same year. And I started to feel that I was running in circles, and I thought it was time to move on to something else.
Okay, well, it's I had no idea. That's awesome.
Great band, great people.
Oh yeah, great musicians actually.
It tells more about myself than the band.
Well,
but,
any band, unless you're involved in production, I think any band 12 times a year, that's a lot. Yeah. Even if you're in it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I can get, and 12 times a year, especially when you take photographs during a concert, you're not paying attention to the music, you're not enjoying yourself, it's production for you. So
up to a point, I knew what were they doing on scene more, as well as anyone in the band. Mm-hmm. So, okay, he's going to jump. Get ready. Okay, he's going over there. Flames, right? Ready.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good. Having somebody. Well, you had such an advantage over anybody else who just went to take their shots. And that's a.
And I stopped, frankly, for a long time. And like 5 years ago, I would say 5 years ago. One of my good friends came and asked me if I would come back and start taking pictures again for them. So I've been working the last years for Metamorphose, the FX school for makeup, for TV, movies. They do props and all the FX makeup. So I've been taking pictures for them for the last years to create the portfolios of the students, and it's been a blast. It's been hard times during COVID, but I'm looking forward every time I am going back to that school, and my actual photographer studio is inside the school. So
awesome,
yeah,
and that's how people around me know you by your artistic title, like you are Vladimir Tankovitch, like a real
yeah, that's my photographer name.
Yeah, that's this is your artistic self. So
yeah,
welcome to the Minotaur's lair. It's like we all build these extra personas in order to be able to but you're not as much of Vladimir and not as much of a Tankovitch either when we get to know you. If I can be honest with you, after 7 years, I mean yeah.
So most people know me about by my work or the exhibitions I did of the pictures I take. Yeah. But nobody knows that I also have 3 technology companies currently, and I am quite proud to say that one of them is working on augmented and virtual reality projects. We had the chance to sign a major player 2 months ago, and I recruited the best musician I knew to work on it.
I know where this is. I know where this is going. Well, thank you. But it's just you're gonna make me blush, and then I gotta desaturate the image and everything. So it's just not necessarily worth it. Tea time. So
cheers.
Cheers. So it's so you are the CEO of Brave New Media, and you are building a digital empire, which is so when I went to your studio a couple of weeks ago, just to check out this project that you guys are working on, the first thing I noticed is that I was in one of your rooms. I'm not sure how many there are, but 4 programmers sit in something of a room like this in memorabilia again. The back of the wall, I was like, this is your company. Definitely you took care of the decorations also, because
it's all the memorabilia my wife didn't want at home. She said, "Oh, you have a company now? Good. Take the stuff away from home." I'm into real life size movie props, so they are quite
and they look good. And they are quality also. So it's like everything I wanted to have as a kid, and we just went to your production studio, and it was like programmers are working on fascinating stuff. And then on the background is just all geek memorabilia and collectibles. It was like,
one of my favorite items in there is the replica of the right hand of Doom from Hellboy movie, life size, that you can actually put on your right hand, and the gun that he uses.
Wow! I'll take some shots
from Sideshow Collectibles. Those are just awesome props.
Next time I'll come by, I'll take some photos, because I saw an opened. I'm not sure if it was opened or unopened, but it was a box set of Quake 2, the original one, actually. Yeah. You had shelves of games there that defined
their time.
Well, as my generation of musicians, anybody who works in this industry are going to cite those people who, the same people who I cite, and so it was quite a pleasurable experience to get into such a milieu. That's
my Maxime, which co-created Brave New Media with me, is also someone quite passionate about music. He also has a band, just like yourself.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I don't have.
Actually,
I don't have bands anymore. But
Signature.
oh yeah, shout out to them.
Shout out, yeah.
I would love to listen to it. He liked the demos that I presented you guys, but it's too soon for me to get that involved into the project. So I just wanted to see whether you want something cartoony or not. And I was like, when I saw their design, I was like, okay, this is.
So let's talk about a little bit about your work.
Okay, let's.
So you wanted to work in video games. You came to France. How did it come to happen? Well, which was your first contact with the video games industry?
Well, so what happened first is that I was working in a hotel. I was doing night shifts, and sometime in 2012, I think, beginning of 2012, and I was looking for ways to get into movie productions because I didn't think that video game production would be possible. I have no programming background, so I have a slight understanding of how stuff functions, but especially back then. I knew very little of it, but I knew how movies worked, and I just finished my diploma on sound engineering. So I was like, okay, well, this should be a direction that I could take. And I started writing. I wrote a commercial for Peugeot, which ran in cinemas for 5 years or something like that. So I wrote music for it and produced some audio for it. And they were very happy with it. And the guy who worked there went to work to Ubisoft, and he was the one who recommended me. So Ubisoft Paris was looking for musicians for in 2013 and 2014. And there was a guy who left the company very abruptly. I briefly got to talk to him, so I would know what to expect, like money-wise, and what the ambience of the whole thing is. And then I started working for small projects for them. Anything that I worked on with Ubisoft became a huge success, and it's a bit of a surprise to me, actually. But this is one of the reasons why when last time I went to the E3, I have people who recognize me, but very few. And it's always under 12 years old. Yeah. For some reason. So last time we were doing the stand-up thing, and France 3 came to interview us, and there was this little girl, the girl of one of the camera operator, I think. And I was like, I'm working for Epic and everything, and they were like, we don't know what that is. And she was like, I know. So that's the kind of audience that I've gotten. So I have the thousands of people cheering. It's just, I never thought it would be underage girls. So it's less fun, but it's a different kind of fun. Let's just say that. So I started with that.
You work in quite few of very, very big games, AAA productions after that.
Yeah, it was kind of a lucky strike in a sense, because I don't think that I was chosen because of my capacity back then. It's just so we did Epic Loot, and they were looking for somebody who could help Brian Taylor finish the arrangements and record and engineer the arrangements in London, but they wanted to hire Hungarian musicians for it. So they looked for somebody who's French, who speaks fluent English, who can communicate with Hungarian musicians. Guess how many concurrent people have been on the whole stage for the whole thing. And I was like, I would do it for half price. And they were like, all right, you're hired. So that's how I got into Assassin's Creed. And then when Brian Taylor, well, what he did was the
planets were quite aligned, I would say.
Yes,
that's quite an achievement to get those requirements together. Not only that those requirements got together, but you were aware of it.
Well, it was a lucky strike in a sense. Well, they would have been happy with somebody who didn't speak Hungarian. It was just so. The whole thing became so surprisingly well-oiled because of this. I didn't need anybody to translate for me. When I needed to correct their chart music, it was It was easy to do. So yeah.
Can you just tell our auditors for which video game this project was?
So this was Black Flag, Assassin's Creed Black Flag that came out in 2014. I did
one of my favorite, the sea shanties. Oh my god!
And they are just coming back. That's the big thing. This is a whole meme that's going all about it. I'm like, yeah.
I listened to that album of Black Flag at least once a week, my friend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I'm so glad. I can't listen to it anymore. But it was a very interesting experience to having it conducted. Rehearsed it, and I was there for the whole recording process because a year before that whole thing happened, I was still in the hotel working, and some of it that I used in the final game was composed during my night shifts. And so you're in a small reception coding your thing and just trying to select the right MIDI note and everything, and then there's a 70 people orchestra recording the whole thing a year later. It was just surreal. But yeah.
Would you say that you being a gamer, someone who's passionate about video games since you were a kid, helped you in some way achieving your...
I wouldn't say that I'm a gamer.
The resulting music, that because you have an understanding of the mechanics of what's going on for the game from the gamer's point of view.
I would say I was a gamer. That helps relating to the dynamics that I'm seeing on screen, for sure. But I'm not a gamer anymore. Really, I'm not. Because when you spend, 16 hours a day in front of a screen, the last thing I want to do with my life at the age of 34 is spend another 8 on my free time doing this. It's just so, but it does help, especially because as technology advanced, the tools that we can use got better. So back then, when the first Unreal came out, for example, what we had was a mod tracker music system that we could use to compose music, which is nice, and it's a low CPU necessity, and it's a relatively small file size. I don't know if you remember that, but when that game came out, MP3 wasn't a thing. There was no compressed file formats. There was no home recording systems like we do now. So it does help. But to be honest, I think one of the reasons why I'm able to work with video games in this fashion is more because of Hideo Kojima, because he started this whole thing with the first Metal Gear Solid that the games should be more cinematic. And I think if you are thinking of a video game as a linear process, as a linear storytelling device, then it's easier to understand what is asked of you dynamically as a music composer. So that, I think, helps me more than just being a gamer. It's the implementation side is not something I'm a stranger to. So that might help. But otherwise, it's just music.
Metal Gear Solid, when it came out, was just incredible. It was a mindfuck for players. Yeah, I know. When you started playing that game, you were like, okay, where's the limit?
I know.
This is so epic. And every time that something awesome would happen, you would be like, whoa, nothing can top this. And then 15 minutes later, you were like, nothing can top this.
I remember it very well when we said it. I was 14 when it came out. We started playing it at my friend's house because I didn't have a PlayStation 1. By the way, just beside you, down there, I have a PlayStation 1. The disc in it is Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, because we just played it with one of my students. And I have the game and everything because I replay it every 2 years, something like that. Yeah, it's genius. And I remember distinctively when we were in front of the screen and we were like, "There's never gonna be graphics better than this." And it's just, if you look at it today, it's just like, oh my god.
Yeah, the best graphics I have seen lately.
Yeah,
and anybody can attack me on this, but man, Cyberpunk is so awesome. from a graphics point of view. If you have the machine that can run it as intended, wow, that's...
The art design of the game is really impressive.
And I'm going to say something else. I've been excited for this game for at least 4 years. I've been hyping myself to no end. And I bought even the collector edition. And the day the game was available, I went and get it from the shop, came home, installed it, launched it, played like half an hour. I know that everybody was going crazy about how buggy and unfinished the game is, but I experienced the same thing you just mentioned. I played like half an hour, maybe an hour, and then I said, wow, that was worth the wait, and I shut it off because I was too fucking tired to carry on in front of a screen. So my impression of Cyberpunk is not similar to all the people who played it through.
I had this conversation with a couple of my friends actually very recently, especially those who were close to the development of their game.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad. Like you just said before we started recording, that it's a marketing, it's a pinnacle of marketing what they did for sure. Which is a bit problematic for the end product, and it is true that, well, first of all, a similar thing happened to them, what I think happened to Ubisoft in 2014 with Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs came out, if I remember correctly, it was 3 weeks before GTA 5 came out, and people started comparing the two because it's both sandbox games and everything, but what you have to understand that, Ubisoft Paris back then was like sixth of the size of what Rockstar North was back then. So
you worked on Watch Dogs, right?
Yes, and so inherently comparing the two, if you have sixth of the budget or even less, then it's not going to be the same game. And well, let's be honest. I mean, GTA 5, even when it came out, it was very refined and it was very well tested. And
to this day.
Obviously, but they update it on a very regular basis. So obviously it works. But Watch Dogs wasn't up for it. And if that's a problem with Cyberpunk, in my opinion, is that it was advertised to be something that's going to be as refined as or topping Red Dead Redemption 2. It was impossible. There's no money for this. So.
Yeah, and the expectations of people were quite high already with Witcher 3.
Yeah.
To this day, it is the best gaming experience I have ever had. And the Heart of Stone extension was the greatest storytelling I experienced in gaming. Oh my God, what was that? The music was great. The dialogues were great. The story was awesome, and when you just finished it, you were like, wow, what did I just witness as a gamer? I don't know if you played it, but yeah, it was unmatched. So I was thinking if they achieved at recreating 1/10 of what we experienced during The Witcher, it was going to be awesome. And I'm honestly think that in a few months we're gonna get there. They're gonna catch up.
They already improved a lot on it. I don't know if you played it recently, but
I'm waiting for it to be quite stable.
Well, it's fine if you have the X, like the Xbox One S. I think that's what
I'm
you
a
told.
PC.
Oh yeah, okay.
Gamer.
Well, on the PC gamer, it's even better. So if you have the hardware for it, it's even better. But generally, I think by the third by the third version of it, I think when there's gonna be a Cyberpunk like Witcher 3, then it's gonna be awesome. But the direction is clearly good, and the heart is there, but it's just overpromised. That's the only thing. Otherwise, I don't think it's a bad game. It was a good story. Some of it felt weird, but I think this is something that we should talk about later, maybe. But I think some of the identity politics have touched the game. But otherwise, from a technical standpoint, I think it's gorgeous. And I had a very similar feeling to it when I when I played Duke Nukem Forever for the first time. I forgot to turn off my phone. Because
Duke Nukem was an incredible experience from this point of view. Back then, you would play Doom, and Duke Nukem was so how do you say it? Irrévérencieux. There was lots of porn. The guy cursed all the time, and
it wasn't science fiction that much as Doom, for example.
Yeah. It got quite edgy.
Yeah, and I think back then why I preferred it to Doom was because it was a bit more grounded in realism, in quotes, of course. But you had one hand that reloaded the gun, for example, when you had no more pistol ammo on it, and you had the jetpack that you could fly with, and there were actual streets and cars and rooms and interiors and exteriors and those things.
A physics engine already that you could destroy stuff.
Oh yeah. So it was a pretty good improvement. I think the general art direction in that game was also awesome.
So you worked on huge AAA productions with the biggest name, Ubisoft, Epic. And now you're working for Brand New Media, a contender for those guys.
So what happened last year was, you called me exactly at the right time. That's one of the reasons. And I was looking for a French company to work for because the Americans don't work with us anymore over distance. And this is sure that after what happened in the last couple of weeks or last couple of months, in the United States, that I'm not going to move there. There's just no way. I loved the States when I went there. Everybody was very friendly, and North Carolina was awesome. But it's just not a place where I would imagine myself living for a very long time. It's a very different culture in some sense to what I experience here. So,
well, I really like Boston over there. I go to Boston every year, except this year. Obviously, it's one of the most European American cities that you can find. It's like you are in some parts of England or Holland. It's quite familiar for Europeans like you and me.
Yeah, it's North Carolina wasn't that far off either. Even the food, it's just the little things that were weird. When I tried to drive there, like when he told me that, turn left in 400 yards. I was like, what the fuck is a yard? It's like, and everybody drives on automatic, which I don't do. So it was a weird experience. But otherwise, and everything is the portions of food is very weird because it's 3 times as what we have here. So, you ask for a small portion in McDonald's. That's the biggest one here. So it's, these small differences. But otherwise, there's not that much difference when it comes to that, but I had a hard time, for example, swallowing the fact that I have seen people with guns on the street. It's just carrying around, which is not something, it doesn't inspire confidence to me for somebody who's coming from the ex-Sovietic bloc. And so, yeah.
I'm coming from a country that had like 3 military coups in the last decades.
Yeah.
I get from where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But so their loss, because now you had to work with a French company. Turns out, and fabulously, I have French companies.
Well, when did you decide to start building this empire? Because I had no idea that you did this. And it's been going on for a while, for sure.
Well, I've been working in the software industry for nearly 20 years now. I started as a marketing intern in an architectural company that created software for architectural visualizations, ArcWiz, as you say. And back then, you didn't have real-time engines like we use now. It was nearly impossible to imagine that you could have a whole building rendered in one file, even a small one, let alone big industrial complexes. Like an airport, you would have about 30 different files you had to open and launch a render, and it would like take 2-3 days for a single light tracing image and so on.
Oh God!
And we were working on the world's first real-time render engine back then. And I slowly started to shift from marketing to project management. The outcome was, after like 6 years, Epic Games bought the company. So because we were using Unreal Engine after a while. So for me, this came full circle. We used a lot of technology and know-how from the video gaming industry to bring it in architecture and industries. And after a while, the video game industry bought back the know-how and brought what we achieved in the industrial area and got it back into video gaming. So it went full circle. It was kind of nice.
It's not bad.
I went from there to a company that worked on the first virtual reality headsets, the Oculus. It was the DK2 back then, development kit 2, and we were working on a virtual coach for gyms where people like me, who obviously don't prefer drinking to running, we were trying to bring game mechanics into gyms so people would actually do sports.
I actually remember some of that. You brought us in when I was still with the production studio.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we had rowing.
Rowing, cycling, running. It was an absolutely incredible project where we had a huge team in a very short time, like only startups are able to build. And we went from scratch to have a working project and had partnerships with Oculus and HTC Vive. We were at the launch of the headset HTC in China. Only 10 companies around the world were invited. 8 of them were Chinese, us and another American company.
Wow.
It was quite an achievement.
Wow.
And obviously the company got bought. And we were thinking about the next steps for us. I was thinking to myself, so where should I go to continue being a project manager? I'm specialized in the agile methodology. So I had lots of offer from Paris or other big cities, but I was quite happy to stay actually here in Strasbourg because my family is here.
Obviously.
And I did it once in my life where I went to work abroad 3 years, and that's not something I wanted to experience again. And with Maxime, who already worked with me in Alodia, we decided to create brand new media. And a lot of the tech team decided to follow us because the people that bought the startup didn't want the team, just the code.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of them said, okay, let's go and do something together. So we created brand new media, specializing in augmented and virtual reality experiences.
But that was like a few years ago, right? So it wasn't
end of 2016. This is actually the 5th year of existence. At the same time, we also created, like 2 months later after creating brand new media, we created a digital village project, which is actually co-working for people who are in the digital world, who work in little teams or by themselves and are looking for a place where they can work as a co-working. but that is able to also output projects like an web agency. Today we are more than 150 people in 5 of the biggest cities in France.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That's quite an achievement again.
Yeah. And in Paris, we just launched 1,800 square meters office building, just next to Xavier Niel from Free.
Wow.
same block.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was.
That's
And this year, during 2020, I launched a startup by myself this time. That is called TemplAR. The name is coming from my love from the famous knights, and also it means augmented templates.
Okay.
TemplAR, AR templates. The project is to create a CRM for augmented and virtual content back office for people to use without no code, low code.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I start think about these projects that you have, so what's the end goal? What would be the ultimate project that you would like to work for? Because this all sounds like a fairy tale.
It's a lot of work.
Oh well, obviously,
a lot of money that I input on those projects. Basically, for every euro that I make, I input like 2 in my projects.
Wow.
So I don't know where the rest is coming from.
Well,
mostly my wife.
This sounds like a very good way to get very poor very fast.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
And you just bought your house, so it's going well, I think. So I'm proud of you.
Yeah, the house wasn't that expensive.
As houses are. We're in Europe. It's dirt cheap. It costs nothing.
Yeah,
Sure. What the hell?
No, there's no end goal. I am what you call a serial entrepreneur. When I see an opportunity to create a business that would work, that would be profitable, I just go for it. I find the people to work in it. I find the people who would put money in it, and I push it until it's able to fly with its own wings, and I move on to the next project. Very American way of doing business.
Yes, I think so. I think we gotta state that because not a lot of people are going to know this about you. But I don't think you have coding experience a lot. And you.
Well, I'm self-made, so I learned coding on my free time. And I didn't go to school. I'm a marketing engineer.
Yeah.
But I became technical enough that I was working at one point with Autodesk and giving courses to amphitheaters full of people explaining how to use Autodesk products.
Okay. Wow, that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're one of those people who say then maybe in order to have success in these kind of projects, university is not the only way to go.
That's not what I would say, but if you want to do something, you have lots of content available to you in a lot of various formats that you can exploit and get yourself knowledgeable on those things. Back then, I used books because that's how you learn back then.
Yeah.
And then I moved on to YouTube, and then a lot of online courses where you would just connect and people
will help you out.
Would help you out.
Sure.
As internet got more and more present in our lives, it also gave a lot of opportunities to learn about stuff.
Wow.
When I bought the house and I had to, do a lot of renovation from scratch, I could barely hold a hammer. And now I nearly finished the project, the whole house renovation, and I really couldn't do anything to save my life. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I called people who knew about it and asked them, how do you do it? How is the best way to do it?
It's awesome.
And you can do that with anything, basically. So if I wanted to learn, to play the guitar, I would come to you and say, I want to start out. Which guitar should I take as a beginner? What what kind of content I should be getting to learn it,
Yeah, well,
It's just a process. When you learn how to learn, you can go on to learn anything.
Well, yeah, it's interesting the parallel that you bring with music, because I think very often I give this advice to people when somebody comes to ask me about musical endeavors, and I say, if you want to learn an instrument, then I think you should take the first couple of classes with somebody who actually watches what you do, so you could avoid getting into traps with technique and stuff that because the problem with music, as a part, the same problem I think we have with perception in art, is that you understand only through the filter of your own personality. So when you're a beginner at an instrument, even if you watch a video, you don't know what you're watching, exactly what you're looking for in it. You just want to know how to play a song, but you don't know if you're in a guitar context, if your right hand technique is proper, or whether you're doing something that you will regret later. So yeah, but otherwise, yeah, I got into motorcycles like that. It's like I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials. Don't you sometimes wish? I wish that sometimes. That's why I'm asking to have been born just a bit later, because it's I had internet first when I was around 14, and I see my stepbrother, who's 18 years younger than me, so he's 17 now, I think. And he was molded by the internet. By the age of 4, he was navigating computers. I didn't have a computer until I was 12. So, and you see the substantial difference that you have in his reaction time to something.
We had to adapt to it. They were born in it, molded by it. I remember when you had dial-up internet. You would be downloading some kind of song, and your mother would just call somebody, and the whole download would go to hell, and you would shout, and there would be a lot of drama.
Do you still remember the specs of your first computer?
Actually, I do. I was quite lucky that my father was quite into computers early on. They bought me the Commodore 64 when it came out, and then the Amiga. I started to learn coding in BASIC, actually, back then. So when you say I don't have coding experience,
that's what I knew.
I beg to differ.
Oh, okay.
I used to
I'll take
go crazy
because you're generating a lot of noise.
I am.
Sorry. Yeah, but that's pleasurable, even if you're...
Yeah, I used to code in BASIC.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
On cassettes.
That's the weird thing about you, is that like I even after all these years, I know one side of your personality, the artist side, and then you called me up last year. So that's like there's this project. Would you be interested in working with us? Like, fuck yeah, sure. But then there's this whole other side to you. Then it's the typical lion male is that it is impossible to know profoundly unless you're following it really closely what's happening. And we never talked about that. I knew you were interested in that culture, but
this is quite a big opportunity for me and my team. Somehow poetic also, because I'm not sure we can disclose the project or the client yet. But my old boss from the startup got to working for this new client. And when they asked him if he knew about the team that would take on a huge project, he said those guys could. And they came to see us. And I'm profoundly humbled by his confidence in our team and our capabilities that... he knew, because it's basically was his team a few years ago. The same people he put together for his project. Now we are working for him on his current project. So
but let's be honest. I started knowing you just by watching you work and getting results of your work, and I never saw anything from you that you weren't entirely satisfied with that came out if you could help it.
Your productions should speak for themselves. The quality level that you want to achieve is we have to be adamant about this, because if one client is unhappy with the end product, this is a small industry, it's going to be known.
Oh yeah.
And currently we don't do sales as classic companies. Just people come to us and say, we need this, and we go.
Well, yeah, because you have a very weird set of skills that is I think is in its birth currently. I mean, the virtual reality world it's not like, I work with video game companies. I don't have the hardware here to test your thing out here.
Yeah.
Because I think it's starting out. If you look at VR chats, for example, today, it's the level of complexity what Metal Gear Solid had 20 years ago, or even less, right? So,
well, as much for virtual reality or augmented reality or mixed reality with the Microsoft headset, the thing is that you are reinventing how people interact with things with new hardware. The hardware that we get for those technologies is quite fascinating, because there is no set of rules that came with it, and every team can imagine how best people could interact with their content. And this is a new way to communicate and interact with things that you are creating. This is the fun part.
Yeah.
You were talking about being born too early or too late. People say, I wish I was born earlier. We were born too late to discover the world, because now.
Well, yeah. Well, discover our planet.
And
that was done.
The planet, yeah. And we were born now, so we can do the rush for space, but we can invent the virtual world. Yeah. Currently, that's what we are doing.
You have stumbled. I'm not sure if it's a good expression for this, because you didn't stumble upon this project. You have actually chosen it, and it's just so fascinating to see how somebody even gets into this, because it's if I didn't know you, I would say that I would love to go into this direction. I just couldn't even imagine how, because it requires such a different knowledge to what I know how to do.
So, as a musician, how did you approach working for virtual reality? Because the way people use it, experience it, is quite different from classic gaming. Yeah. For once, they have headset in front of their eyes, but also ears.
I don't think that's that much of a difference. One advantage that you have with a virtual reality set that is a given hardware is that you can actually test for it 100%, and I can make sure that the mix and mastering of all the sounds that are presented in the game are going to sound good on the headset, which is a lot of relief, because as a musician, you're never actually sure what kind of platform the user or your audience is going to listen to what you have written, which is half the experience. If you have a shit room with an iPhone speaker, it's not going to give you the same experience as if you have, I don't know, an audiophile system with a calibrated room with it, obviously. But now we have the exact hardware they are going to have, so I can test exactly what they are going to hear.
It's a controlled environment. Yeah.
Yes, it's a very controlled environment. So that's an interesting thing about it. Otherwise, as far as I saw your project, which is video game-like in the structural sense, so altogether composing for video games proposes an interesting concept in musical composition. The one thing that's very different that I really enjoy toying around with is time. Because when you write a song, it's a linear experience. I assume at least that when you listen to my song, you start at the beginning, you finish at the end. But when you create music for the video game, I'm not exactly sure in which situation my music is going to be played. So I have to prepare for several different situations, and the result I'm getting might not become the song I had in mind, but it still has to work. I'm preparing sections. For example, let's just say Doom is a very good example to this. I don't have to over-explain this. When there's a combat situation, there's combat music playing. When you are dying, there's effects that are coming in that indicate to the player that you're dying. When you are winning, there's a section that tells you that you're winning. When you're exploring, it's a different dynamic. So what they did is that they had sections of all these, and the game chooses what to play, and everything with everything has to be compatible all the time, which means that you are not thinking linearly as a musician. I don't think of, just put 2 choruses here and 1 verse, because, I might have, not in your case, but in video games, I might have the situation when the player just takes off the headset and everything, and the music loops for 10 minutes, and it has to be interesting, and it has to be not too repetitive, and it has to be ready for the next part to come in, which is not something that, in a band context you would you would ever entertain.
In our case, it's a timed situation. There is a start and an end.
Well, yeah, more or less, but it's something I will have to talk. I already started talking about this with the designer team. So I would love to prepare for the situation where somebody fails. And, let's say you have 1 level and then you have a second level, and the first level is designed to last, 4 minutes, for example. And so, but I can't compose just a 4-minute segment for it, because then what will happen is that, let's say that the player fails, goes back to the beginning, or goes back just 1 section. Then what happens with the music? Either I'm going to repeat it again, which in my estimation really decreases the probability that he's going to replay it. And since replayability is a really big factor in this game.
It is.
Yes. So, I think one way to annoy your audience is to have a very repetitive sound effects and very repetitive music. So what I play around with is trying to give the ambience that the graphics and the whole game design conveys in such a way that you're unaware of where it loops. And it has to be something that everybody instantly likes. And you have an audience, the target audience for this. So I don't have to cater for anybody over, 70. And I don't have to cater for anybody under 7 years. Which is a pretty big space still,
it is.
but it does help a little, because above 7 years old you already have a fairly good understanding of dynamics. You might not understand what happens musically, but you understand when something makes you afraid, or something encourages you, or something is an incentive to continue, or so there are these dynamics that you understand, and I can play around with those, and most people listen to what I would generalize as a basic pop song structure, which is in 4/4, so 4 beats per bar. So what I do is that instead of thinking in 4/4s all the time, I might change that somewhere just to have something intriguing to the ear, and so I could hide better when it loops. So instead of 4 times of 4 bars, I have 7 times 4 bars. And so when you would expect the 8th one, it would already loop. And then you would be lost into where it loops, and your mind unconsciously goes it's not annoying, it starts to be intriguing. So it's not that repetitive that you would expect. So with stuff like this you can play.
And my team can imagine the most fun game mechanics you could have. If the experience is not satisfactory on all the levels, people are gonna get bugged by it. So music is actually quite a big component of the project we are having.
If you're asking me, and I'm very biased, but I think half the experience you're having is auditory. But generally, people don't pay attention to it. They pay attention to it when it's shit. They notice sound effects when they are wrong, when there's something not right. Some of the best things that I've ever written go unnoticed because it matches so well with what you see.
It's a huge part of the success of anything that you do in video games or augmented content. I remember a few years back we were at CES and we had an early version of the rowing experience where the audio was not done yet. So we just put a track that we bought. There was no sound effect yet.
It's very annoying.
It is, but
no.
People were so impressed back then when virtual reality was merely a thing, were so impressed by what was going on. We had this questionnaire. We were telling them how was the sound effects, how was the music, and everyone was, the sound effects were awesome. I could hear the birds and the water.
Yeah, I know.
There was no track for those. People just, their minds just...
Yeah, they fill up.
They filled up the missing parts. And I was going, we are not just giving something for people to play on their TV. They are experiencing something in such an immersive way that the mind just completes whatever is missing from reality.
Yeah.
So it matches what you are used to.
Yeah, I know. Well, if you're doing that, then I think you are doing a good job. I think in a video game, it's a very important part in any kind of visual experience. It's a very important part to have some kind of feedback from your ears. I think it's a big element of it. And when you don't have that, you might feel in that gap, but you might not. I have realized that one of the reasons why I've gotten into video game music was also the second iteration of Need for Speed, which was, I think it was a flop, and I played that game over and over and over again until I realized that I play it because I like the music under it. And I just downloaded the OST, and then I just started listening to the OST. I don't have the incentive to play the game anymore, but the music was so good that I wanted to go back. But again, I think it was George Lucas who said that it's like the half of the visual experience is auditory. So yeah, so it's
imagine now a project where you have the headset and everything is pitch black, and you have to create sound waves to see what's surrounding you, like a birdcage situation, where you can see the world, but you have like your controllers, and with your controllers, create sound waves, and the sound waves show you what's
something like a sonar or something.
Yeah, like a bat experience where you have to go through a labyrinth just by
could be fun.
Yeah,
could be fun.
So we have our next project.
Well, I'll be happy working on that too. It's it kind of reminds me at the beginning of video games when there was such a freedom in creation. The formulas didn't yet exist. There are a lot of genres that exist today that we take for granted weren't a thing. And I think it's kind of where you are now with the virtual and augmented reality, is that you're not unsure what is working, what is not. So half of the thing is experimenting, which is a very exciting place to be as an artist or somebody creative.
And one of the reasons a lot of people were not satisfied with virtual reality experiences was because a lot of people tried to just take the formulas that worked for classic video games and just put it in the headset. Said, here, take the same fucking experience.
Well, yeah,
sometimes
it works, but sometimes, surprisingly, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't, because it's not if you don't use the possibilities given by the hardware, what is specific to it, and why it is interesting, why it gives you other types of stories, game experiences, game mechanics that you could use, it's going to be a half experience. People want to be amazed, want to, do something they were not able to do when they are in their home with their PlayStation and Xboxes.
Yeah.
You have to create something exceptional, just like the arcades was something you could not have at home back then. People were just going crazy in those arcades. I remember when I was a kid, when Street Fighter 2 came out, I spent the first week I spent $100 on the freaking machine. Playing with Chun-Li, because people would come and you would be playing and some other kid would come and put a coin and choose Ken and try to beat you. And
so good.
Yeah. And what's happening here, and the project is also multiplayer. You can interact with other people that are inside.
I have so many questions about that. You have no idea. I've been thinking about the technical side of it, and once we finish this, I will ask my questions. It's so much fun creating. I mean, you are essentially creating a world with its own set of rules, which is a lot of fun. I think real creative effort, the best things in arts are always suggesting something beyond what you experience. This is why I think Star Wars is a very good example of this. Is that it presented a universe that's so detailed on the surface of it that you can imagine whole entire stories on it that weren't there, and it encourages you to do that.
Absolutely. I think somehow we are just reinventing with new hardware the arcades of the 70s and the 80s.
It's a similar experience, yeah, to me too. And being a part of it is it's actually quite fun. It's a lot of fun. I can't wait to see the end product of this. I can't wait. I would love to be involved more. It's just I don't know how.
We will do more videos and podcasts as the project advances and we are able to, communicate more freely. Maybe we could even listen to some of your tracks or contents.
Have you listened to what I sent to you guys?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we'll talk about it later because we streamed some of it to the client yesterday.
Oh, already? Well, okay.
Yeah, they are quite ecstatic about the project, as we are.
Well, me too. I saw the thing and I was like, yeah, this really could be something. How do you deal with the inherent negative side? Because you have a lot of responsibility to your investors, and you work with a lot of people now. I mean, and so how do you deal with that?
I feel responsible for my team because I've been with them for a long time. And people use this expression a lot, but in my case, I feel that I've been with these people for so long and doing crunches, doing overtime. I spend more time with them than my actual family that I feel responsible for them to provide their salaries on a good level where they can, be happy to come to work without worrying about the rest. So that's a responsibility that I carry. Every year when the team gets bigger and bigger, sometimes I look back and I said, this is a huge thing to carry because people depend on
you,
on me, but I also depend on them. So
I do understand that.
It's a team effort. They do their part, I do my part, the company goes forward. It's not haunting or, it's not a crushing experience. And I don't have the kind of pressure that you could have from exterior investors because me and my associate are the sole investors in the companies. So whatever happens, it's our burden only for the two of us. Mm-hmm. And I can live with that. Well, we are not a gaming company, and we are not, a product company. People come to us and pay us to develop specific things for them.
Yeah.
So we are getting paid to do the things that we do all the time. So we don't have to find capital and try to get like a video game on the market so people can buy it in a certain time because we are not running out of cash.
Okay.
People give us a certain amount of time to create something precise on a set time and we deliver.
Okay.
And that's the difference. If we don't have people coming to us for content, that's the problem. My whole job is to find people who need us and try to find ways where we can help them. And obviously, it's if it's something really fun like this, where the whole team can express themselves artistically and technically, it's better. We all work on all kinds of projects: medical, industrial, cultural.
What's the weirdest project that you guys have done that you can talk about?
We just finished this project. I discovered it when I was in Boston, sitting by the seaside in a bar with other people from Strasbourg.
Wow.
And I was talking to the guy that was sitting next to me and saying, what are you guys doing? Because we were a lot of startups and learning to get to know each other in Boston. Mm-hmm. And they said, we are doing this product that enables first responders to stop nasal cavity hemorrhage. When you're in an accident or you had something, and the nasal cavity, exactly where they put the COVID test. If you are bleeding from there, you cannot stop it because there is no way to put pressure on the open wound.
Yeah.
So they develop this kind of cushion that you inflate and deflate that enables to put the pressure where it is needed, so it stops the bleeding.
It's quite specific.
Yeah, it's quite specific. And he had the prototype, and he was trying to put it in our noses to show it. Let me inflate this huge balloon inside your head, basically. We ended up doing an augmented version of their augmented user's guide to be able to be used by medical staff, so they know what angle they have to insert it. You have this head that's cut in half, and you can see how the product has to be used in order to be efficient.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's what's interesting about what we do. One day we will be working on something that entertains people. The next day it will be something for their healthcare. Yeah, it's always a challenge. Always a challenge.
No, it's so good.
I remember where we went in Hungary together, because you took us there, a whole bunch of us.
We recorded Absurdity's Undestructible album in Budapest.
Yeah, I remember.
That was fun.
It was quite an experience.
Yeah, you brought a model girl to be with us.
Makeup artist. She was a makeup artist, yeah. Because you guys had to be beautified for the
Yeah, it didn't really
videos.
work. Well, some of it. Well, she did a good job, but unfortunately, like I said it in Hungarian, you can't build a castle out of shit. So it's yeah, we had our own limitations.
You could if you are really motivated.
What did you think? Well, yeah, but does it really worth the effort? What was it like for you, Budapest? Because you obviously have been in other countries that are a bit economically more in the toilet than France. So
well, truth to be told, we were in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by forest in a recording studio.
Yeah.
And we went out twice, if I remember correctly.
Might be right.
Because basically for food shopping, because the van was too small to accommodate the whole band and the tech team. So people were taking turns in going to the city. Yeah. So I remember being in the city only twice. And once we ate burgers, and the other one we went shopping.
Okay.
So I don't have, a Budapest experience.
Oh, that's...
I've been in Budapest before. Mm-hmm. And, it's a magnificent city. I recommend anyone to go and discover it. But being in the middle of the forest with Bambis running around, remember those? They were just roaming around the building.
In all honesty, I don't remember much of the whole experience. It was a very, very dense thing for me. First of all, I went back to Hungary a week before you guys arrived. So I could be with some family members and taking care of the apartment that we left there. And the week we recorded the album, I had, I think, my 26th, 27th birthday. So I organized one party that you are actually in the photo on.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I brought people from music university, from France, obviously, from London. I had people, from my friends from Budapest. Everybody that mattered to me up to that point is on that photo. And it's a weird experience, by the way. And I'm not going to get on a tangent on this, but it's a weird experience to check that photo because half of those people I don't speak to anymore.
That's life.
That's life. Yeah, it's something. This is not how I imagined my 30s whatsoever, but it was a very fun experience. And you know what? The weirdest thing is I don't think I could have ever recorded in the studio if I never came to France because it's expensive. And if you live in Hungary, either you're up one of the best musicians, and most of my friends from university or the music college I went to, they already recorded in supersize, but I don't think I could have.
Great people there.
Oh yeah. Well, it has changed quite a lot since.
I wouldn't know about that, but back then
it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun recording. Yeah. Talking about project, how is Minotaur coming along?
I have released something in January that actually blew up a lot. Last year I started having the urge to record and do something again. And in December I started preparing for a song that I wrote all my frustration into. So musically, I think it's the least listenable song I have ever created, while it also sounds the best, because I learned a lot about mixing and mastering my projects. So with my guitarist friend Nico, we have recorded one. I have released another song the day before yesterday. Awesome. And every single month I will be coming out with something. So the Minotaur project is restarted because now I have the time.
Finally.
I think it's time for me to actually relaunch it. Last year I met another Hungarian guitarist who actually works in Strasbourg. He during the second lockdown he went back to Budapest, but he will be back. A very good guitarist actually, who is also friends with a lot of my friends back in Hungary, and the three of us with my friend Nico and with this friend who's called Gary, we have decided to actually start working on some stuff, and we have composed, like I invited them over right before the second lockdown, so we had like one night of a jam session. We wrote a song immediately, and it's all of it sounds so good. So I think I might get back into a band context just for the fun of it, because it's been more than 4 years now that I have been on stage, and I start to miss it. I mean, with an instrument, I have done some stand up last year for the fun of it, but it's not quite the same as being loud and and playing the demon on stage. That's I start to miss that. So So for that, I would need.
It would be good to get back to it. I think when you have it in your blood, it comes back to haunt you after a while.
Yeah. Well, have you seen what happened with the music industry in the last year? So many people left and quit, and especially from the very cream of the profession, very top of the profession.
I'm not quite astonished by the situation. I mean, suddenly most people had free time, something which was never on the menu for them, and they found themselves isolated from the rest of the world, where they were left with their own thoughts. It gave a lot of thinking time to those people to set their priorities in order, what they wanted at a given age, what they were expecting from life. To be honest, I'm astonished not more people just moved on to other stuff, because we had a whole year to figure it out, who you are and what you want to do and where you want to move on. Because when you are doing the same thing in a mad rush, you don't have time to ask yourself those questions.
Did it do you any good? Because I don't think you had a lot of time to think, but
sure.
Did it help?
I'm starting to get at an age where I have to create some time for myself, and I mean not only me, but like family, time outside of work, something which is totally foreign to me. And I'm starting to try to live life outside of work, which is a 2020 thing for me.
Okay. And how, do you mind me asking, how do you do that? 3D printing, I know that.
Actually, I don't have time for 3D printing. I had to set my priorities, and I did a lot of renovation in the house.
Oh yeah,
we are halfway there. So working wood or working in the house, it's quite gives me quite the satisfaction.
Oh well,
actually,
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
That's one aspect of getting into motorcycles that I enjoyed the most, which is the weirdest thing. That all through my life I worked with stuff. I worked with computers mostly. With music also, to me, it's like working with computers. And for the first time, when you start learning how a suspension works, how how a bore, how valves, how all that stuff, electronics and fairings and all that, and repairing motorcycles, that was a lot of fun for me to do. And last year I really got into that. So I get that entirely. It's so good.
Yeah, that's something that attracted my attention when I was getting into 3D printing, resin 3D printing, and the amount of knowledge that you have to incorporate very quickly to be able to output something decent. It's just crazy. And when you started to get results, you get a lot of satisfaction out of the end result. And the only difference is with motorcycles, you can ride it afterwards.
Yeah. Well, if you're doing a good job, you can. If you're not, then you're not riding it. So yeah.
I have lots of friends who are bikers, and most of them are in clubs, motorcycle clubs. They spend more time repairing their machines than riding.
It's the same with instruments. You learn how to set them up for yourself and everything. It's like a big chunk of your free time goes to set up your instrument properly so it would behave when you start, really digging into it. Because if it's not responding to you when you're not thinking, then it's not a good relationship to have. And it's the same thing with motorcycles, I think.
It's very similar to game modding. You spend more time modding
than
the
enjoying.
Game to be very specific to your needs and expectations. And mostly I spend like 5 or 6 times. I dedicate more time to modding the game than actually playing it.
I would love to see your mods. What do you mod?
Mass Effect, Skyrim, Fallout. Mostly open world games. Witcher series. I spend an incredible amount of time to try to upgrade Witcher 2 to modern graphics with everything that's available out there for it. And when I achieved it and I launched it, I said, I'm satisfied now.
That would be...
Now, let's mod the next game.
That would be epic. Yeah.
It is, yeah. The modding community is incredible.
Yeah.
So last subject, let's say.
Okay.
Given the time.
Yeah, soon we should wrap this up, I think. You have stuff to do otherwise. So
I have to get back home because we have, the
curfew.
Curfew in France.
Sure.
First project or thing that you want to do when we get out of the curfew situation?
I think the first one that I will organize is going back to doing stand-up as fast as possible. The one reason for it is because it proved to be a very good set of people. We were doing stand-up in English in the middle of Strasbourg. We have a friend of mine, Stefan Bobner, found the place like 2 years ago. And it was actually quite a hit. And I know how to produce the audio side of it. I can record it. My English is sufficient enough to tell jokes, and it's not a lot of preparation, not a lot of money. So it's a good way of meeting new people. And I realized that after last year that I really am somebody who is that kind of outgoing person who's recharged from social interactions. So that's going to be the first, because I think that's going to be the easiest to organize. And then I'll start maybe looking for a drummer for the band project.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I have a couple of ideas. What would you do?
Actually, I think I will go back to organize a photo exhibit, art exhibit. Funnily enough, after the first wave of COVID ended, I was contacted to put an exhibit in place. So we put everything on the walls, and the next day was supposed to be the the opening day of the exhibit, but the second wave hit and it closed.
Fuck.
So this is my longest exhibit in the history of my career, because it's been going on for months. But
it's the least visited.
the longest and the least visited exhibit of my career.
It's the worst combination you can possibly get.
Exactly. So I'd like to get this on the road and try to get maybe a couple of people to actually see the content.
I was at one of your exhibits a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago in the hotel. Before we wrap this up, I gotta tell you that, because it was a very disturbing experience. It was not what I expected of you. You have pulled all your frustration into that, I think, and from a technical standpoint, because you were using Polaroids.
Yeah,
I think
it was a special Polaroid exhibit.
Yeah, but let's just say wholesomeness wasn't the subject for the whole thing.
Well, I have to be honest about that project. Someone asked me if I would be interested, and I said yes. Mm-hmm. So they put me on the event, and they, like, on social networks, they communicated a lot about it. Mm-hmm. And it was a quite busy time for me, because I was building the different companies and we had lots of things going on. And somehow it kind of, got away from me. Not that I forgot about it, but the concept that the event was near eluded me. And I just got a Facebook notification saying, okay, here's your exhibit, get ready, it's soon. I was, oh, fuck.
Okay.
I have to get stuff ready. And then in a mad rush, I contacted people I worked with and the photo shoots in just the day before. And as it was Polaroid, it was possible to get them ready for the exhibit. So it was more adrenaline than usual.
Wow, that's I had no idea. It wasn't very obvious. I think, because we were even talking about technique, and you were like, I just set it up with a DSLR and I look at what the picture would be, and then I just take the camera in front of it.
The technical side was here.
I was like, this motherfucker has been doing this for weeks, and okay. No,
just the day before.
Okay. Well, do you have any of those up on the internet? I don't think it's very.
I don't.
Yeah, it's not very user friendly.
No, it's not even that. I think that content I create to be seen on exhibits should be seen on exhibits. I take special care not to put them on the on the internet or social networks. I noticed that if people come and see the same thing they see on your Instagram or
they are just
Facebook,
not coming.
They just stop coming.
Yeah.
They want original content. They want to be intrigued. They want to see, okay, what did he do this time? Mm-hmm. So I am very shy about what I produce on the social networks.
Yeah, well, that's understandable.
But I get the highest turnouts for my events compared to other photographers who share them online. Okay.
Well, yeah, but that makes sense.
But you can always link my Instagram.
Just to wrap this up, where can we find you? So you have Brave New Media. What else would we like to promote this time?
Well, I think it's not bad. We talked a lot about the different projects, but if people want to see my artistic side, they can catch me. You can put the link for my
for your Vladimir Tankovitch
Instagram, and otherwise just follow us together with you as we go through this experience together, and we will try to do this again soon, so we can talk more about the project, maybe. More in details and announce.
That would
content.
Be a lot of fun. I would love to bring in your CFO and also your main designer, because those guys. There was a lot of fun meeting them, even if it was short. Yeah,
they are very true people with a lot of imagination, and they are dedicated to their art and what they create. for what they're doing, the game mechanics, and what experience the users are going to get out of what we are doing is quite important for them. I stole that from Gabe,
Yeah.
Put a lot of talented people in the same place and they will create cool stuff. Yeah. Kind of his idea with Valve. Right. That's the legend. The resulting product is a monument that is.
There's not much in his entire legacy that you can really criticize.
Exactly. The guy is able to understand the problems that the users are facing or what they want, how they want it, and provide it to them.
Also, let's be honest, he has provided us with with several of the most interesting game mechanics ever.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, which is not very, you have maybe a handful of people in this industry since its existence who did that.
Well, globally, Nintendo was able to keep people on the edge of their seats for
a couple of decades.
For a couple of decades. They put out a Mario or a Zelda or whatever regularly, but they always innovate, either on the hardware level or on the game type. The latest Zelda was magnificent production, quite different from the rest, but able to keep the original spirit of the game.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree.
Or Animal Crossing. Oh my God!
Yeah,
how big was that during the beginning of the pandemic?
Yeah,
people were going apeshit to buy the console to be able to play the game. Everybody was talking about it. A whole culture emerged from it. People were trying to cope by escaping in the.
Yeah, I did the same thing, and Animal Crossing wasn't for me, but I did understand why it was so appealing to many people, and it was a very good game design, one of the best of 2020 for sure. So yeah,
I never played Animal Crossing until I read about this small anecdote. I think it was on Reddit of a girl when she was younger used to play Animal Crossing with her. On her free time as a kid, and she got her mother also playing with her.
Mm-hmm.
But after a while, she moved on and did other stuff. Her mother passed away, and somehow she found her old Nintendo and plugged it back, went back to the game, and was greeted by hundreds of messages and gifts from her mom, who kept playing the game throughout the years. And every time she would do something fun, she would send her mail and presents and I don't know how many messages.
My God.
And she went through some emotional roller coaster there.
Oh my God. It's quite a wholesome story.
Yeah, that made me, jump the bridge, and I went to check it out. It's quite
that's one of the big possibilities that you might have with one of these companies that you are managing, especially if you get into entertainment. To this day, I have people coming back to me. I had some of my songs up in Rock Band, so it's the same plastic controller kind of thing. So they downloaded my songs to play too, and every single year there's like 2-3 people from Indonesia, Texas, Australia, Japan coming to me that where can I download those songs? Because I listened to it when I was 7 years old. I downloaded it by mistake or just randomly, and those were the best songs in the game. And it's just it changes you as a person. and those few commentaries. So I really hope it comes together because it changes you as an artist when you have that. It's so fantastic. Well, you know what?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. So let's do this again soon, especially when we have something to show for with the project. That would be a lot of fun.
Thank you, and
see you soon. Goodbye. Then. Yeah, goodbye. Bye, everybody.
Test son.